Testing. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I figured it out. Can you guys hear me? Let me know if you guys can hear me. You guys hear me? 1, 2, 3, 4. I think I fixed it. Please let me know if you guys can hear me. I'm back. I'm having technical issues, but that's okay. It wouldn't be a live stream if I didn't have live issues. Knocktop says, yep, okay, good. You guys can hear me. That's great. Sorry I was not here last week. I was feeling very sick. I drove all the way down to San Diego and drove all the way back and had a great time while I was there, but also seemed to have picked up some kind of bug, and I can definitely see why people died of dysentery on the Oregon Trail. I'm just going to say that. But I'm here, I am live, I am back, and a lot has happened since I've last seen you guys. Sorry about not last week's, but the week before stream. I was having technical issues with it, and I couldn't figure out the problems before I left for San Diego, and now that I'm back, I just got around to fixing them, so I will post that live stream after I'm done going live on this live stream, so it'll look like I dropped 2, but it's just from 2 weeks ago because I had technical issues. But now that we got all that housekeeping out of the way, welcome. What are we working on today? Today we are still not back to the cone cape. I want to gather some more materials on that one because I've gotten us to the point of decoration, which is the best part. So the decorating is going to be coming up, but I just don't have all the stuff for it yet. That's okay. Next week we get to paint all the little people, and I'm really excited about that. I just don't have the tiny paintbrushes right now. All my paintbrushes are too big to paint the teeny tiny people. And also, I think it'd be nice if you guys had a closer up camera to the painting, as opposed to just this one camera that I have going on right now. So this week we're going to take a side quest and work on a project that I have been doing just because stash bashing. I got an idea in my head. Anyways, I'm making reusable paper towels. They're self-adhesive, meaning I'm making them out of flannel so I can just wrap them up on themselves and reuse them. I made a set going, is this even a good idea? And then I used the set, washed the set, and I really liked it still after washing it. So I want some more, and I am going to show you guys how I made them. And also, I'm going to do something that I said I would never do on stream. I'm going to use my serger. It is currently all threaded up, and last time I sat down to the serger it worked, but that doesn't mean this time I won't forget to put the presser foot down or something. So if I run into serger issues, I apologize in advance because it's no fun watching me troubleshoot a serger. Hence why I don't like using it on live streams. But I'm going to get over that today and just use it anyways, because this is a super easy project if you just want to play with your serger or your sewing machine, because all we are doing is finishing the edges. So what are we doing today? I have paper towels. Paper towels are a great invention. They have their place. They're very sanitary. There are places where you definitely would prefer to use a paper towel so you can just toss it and let the garbage go. But sometimes in your home, my house at least, I don't necessarily want to just keep throwing garbage away. These are trees. So I am using up some of my stash fabrics, like this lovely lizard flannel print right here that is amazing and I absolutely love it. But what am I going to do with it? I can only have so many pairs of pajama pants. It's a great flannel. I made a mini stuffy with it out of the little lizards, but I'm going to turn it into some reusable paper towels. And the reason I'm choosing cotton flannel is cotton's a great rag anyways because of its absorbency and natural fiber contents, blah, 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 blah. The flannel, I like the texture because it makes it easy for cleaning. It's really good for windows. But stash bashing, I like the fuzziness of this. It works great for a rag. I wouldn't necessarily use a flat cotton, or I don't know. You have options. You can even use t-shirts. I think t-shirts make good rags. You don't even have to finish the edges of t-shirts. You can just cut it up into squares. But because we are making something today, we are finishing these edges. Now, this is a great project to practice your edge finishes. I don't recommend a blind hem because that's not practical in any way. We did that a couple weeks ago. It was fun, but now we've moved on. We're going to be doing the Serger today, but you can also practice your narrow hem. You can use your sewing machine. You don't have to use a Serger. I just am today because I'm trying to be brave. So let's do this. I did not pre-wash this cotton, so I know it will shrink, and it always shrinks up. Now, what do I mean when it shrinks up? It's always going to get shorter and wider. How do you know it's going to get shorter and wider, and which way is shorter and which way is wider? Well, when you have a woven fabric, you have your warp threads and you have your weft threads. Warp threads are your strong threads. Your weft threads go left and right, and they're the filler threads. Now, when your fabric swells up with water, it gets swollen like, think of those finger traps where you push them and compress them together and they get short and wide. That's what's happening to all the individual fibers in your fabric. So they're swelling up with moisture, water. They swell up and they get wide and they get shorter. And then when it dries out, it kind of keeps that shape. So when you want to know which way is your warp way and which way is your weft way, you can look at your selvage edge. But if you don't have your selvage edge because you've you've cut a square out already, you can always hear it. If you go one way, it sounds this. And the other way, it sounds like, hold on, this way versus, can you hear the difference? No, I can't right now. But the stronger one, there we go. This is the stronger one. This is the up and down. You can also see with the selvage edge. This is the stronger way, so it's going to shrink up this way and get wider that way. Is it the end of the world if you cut it whichever way? No, but it gives you an idea of how your things are going to shrink up, so the fact that I didn't pre-wash these, I know I'm going to want to cut it at least about an inch. So it gives me half an inch on either side of shrink room, and also when you use a serger, you sometimes cut off a little bit of the edges. Not a lot, it's not a big deal, but it gives me wiggle room to shave off an edge, and then it keeps it within the right height. What's the right height? I like to use the paper towel holder rolls so that they're equivalent and they can be used on the same kitchen fixtures or whatever, paper towel holders. Because they're supposed to be a reusable paper towel option, so I want them within that kind of range. But I'm not a huge fan of these smaller paper towels because they're the half width kind, which is really good when you're trying to save paper towels because you don't want to waste them. But since I'm making reusable ones, I don't have to be this stingy with my paper towel, and I can do it double wide or however wide I want it. But this length is probably the more important length. When it comes to a paper towel, I'm going to cut off a square and use it as my pattern. So I know I tore this edge, so I know this edge is straight of grain. It is torn a completely straight line. So I can measure down from this using my paper towel. I want to do it the lengthwise because, like I said, I want to be able to use a paper towel holder. But I did not pre-wash this fabric, and I know it's going to shrink up. And I'm also going to be using my serger to cut off ever so, the edges are going to get trimmed down naturally from that. So I'm going to go down about an inch. It's not rocket science, it's just a guesstimation. And I am going to snip it. And then just tear it. Okay, now normally I would cut off the selvage edge, but the selvage edge doesn't bother me. It says 2000 blank textiles, OTC, not suitable for, it's not supposed to be turned into pajamas for kids because it's not fireproof. But the edges don't bother me. I'm going to keep them. And since it's the right height for me, I'm going to just divide it in half and then in half again. This is my scientific way of figuring out how wide to make these reusable cloths so that I'm wasting as little, and I get about the size cloths per sheet. I don't want to tear these for no particular reason other than I just don't feel like it. I'm going to cut them. You know, I'm already doing these differently than I did them last time. Last time, before I cut, I serged my long edges, so I serged 2 of the edges. Then I cut them and serged the shorter edges so that I had a whole lot less strings to deal with and corners to deal with. But that's okay. I'm live, and there's no right or wrong way to do anything. Hi, Bruno. You want to come up? Hi, Bruno. He wants to say hi. Oh. What? Oh, I can pay attention to you instead of doing the live stream? I'm just talking to, I'm a crazy person. He's having an intervention. He's like, dude, you need to stop talking to yourself. I'm here. Anyways, I'm just gonna cut these into their into their squares. Last time when I did this, I wanted sharp corners. When I went to visit my sister, she had the exact same thing that I had made, but she had rounded corners on her serger. She did them on her serger, and I was like, yeah, I really like this stupid craft. It's a good project. It's an easy one. Get a feeling of accomplishment when you're done, and then you get a practical thing you can use in your kitchen that's cute. And there's so many novelty prints that you can definitely find something that's going to look great with your decor. All right, Bruno, you're making this difficult, and I haven't finished cutting these out. I can let you back up after I'm done, okay? Okay? Oh, you just noticed a jock on the mic stand. Yeah, that was my indicator to try and keep the mic stand out of the shot. I figured if he went peekaboo, I would notice, and then I would be able to keep it. Anyways, yes, that's Jock. Okay. So I have rectangles. 1, 2. Michael Snell, is your entire family crafty? I would say so. I would say so. I think we all. Okay. rectangles cut out. I am not worried about pressing them. They can be wrinkly because they are, again, like I said, rags. They will be washed. They will be a natural crinkly cotton, and it is the aesthetic, so we are not going to fight it. Ugh. All right, let's give the serger a try. I don't want to do rounded corners. I'm going to do sharp corners. Just no preference, just... Oops. That's funny. I was pushing on the presser foot for the sewing machine. Let me get the sergers. This is the foot for the serger. It's still plugged into it. It's just, you know, those games where you have to follow the cord, which one leads to the plug and which one leads to the foot that you need. Okay. Just double check that my presser foot is down. Okay. That was what I messed up with last time I tried to... It wastes a lot of thread to do it this way, but I will loop-de-loops on all my corners because I didn't just shave them off. But that makes it easy enough to just trim them off. Super easy. Now, normally, I would just use the paper towel too, but I didn't grab one of those real quick. You just have to wrap it around. Because they're flannel, they stick. Michael Schnell, what exactly is a serger? A serger is a fancy sewing machine that cuts the edges and finishes them all in one swoop, and it also sews at the same time. Too good to be true. It is true. No, I'm just kidding. It's complicated because you have all the different threads that you have to sew. You have to thread through the sewing machine. Sorry, I can talk and sew at the same time, I promise. That's why you need these giant tweezer things for the loopers. But it is a sewing machine that gives you that finished edge that you find a lot on knitwear. So if you look inside of your t-shirt, the edge of your t-shirt was probably serged. The inside of a sweatshirt's probably serged. A lot of commercially sewn garments use sergers because they finish your edge cut and sew all in one step, so it is a really efficient tool, but it isn't necessary. Am I making it more confusing? So you don't need a serger to do an overcast seam. You can do an overcast seam using different stitches on your sewing machine, but it's not going to be as flat, honestly, than if you use a serger. A serger is going to cut everything, trim everything up, and it has 2 lines of stitching, and it doesn't always have to have 2 lines of stitching. You can set it to have 1 line of stitching, 2 lines of stitching, up to 4, depending on how many threads your serger can handle. Then you also have the loopers, which loop around the edges of the fabric, which finish the edge of the fabric that way. And it encases the edges so that they don't become frayed or messed up during washing and use. That's why I am using it for the edges of my reusable paper towels. I know they're not paper, but they're what they're replacing is paper towels, and they're reusable. Let's see, 2 more. This is a really easy project if you just want to have something done and you want to practice your seam edges, finishes. Like I said, you can use a regular sewing machine. You can do an overcast stitch on the edges, or you could practice your narrow hem or a rolled hem. You can also try using bias tape edging. There's lots of ways you can play, but then at the end of the day, you have something useful and finished. So it cuts the fabric itself, and there's no fold over. Yes, it cuts the fabric, so this is the edges that it's cutting off as I'm sewing. Sew at this weird angle for y'all. So as it goes through here, this part of the foot has a little blade that goes up and down that cuts it, so that it goes to the needles that stitch up and down, and there's 2 of them that I have threaded, so it's giving 2 lines of rows of stitching. And there's these little loopers right here that are going whoop, loop, loop, loop. That's a sound effect that they make, really. As they go over and under. And it makes this big old long chain stitch right here. And that is what I am trimming off. Yeah. So, I really like the flannel because it works like a flannel board and it just keeps sticking to itself. So I can stick on the paper towels and they just stick to themselves, and that's never going to get worse. It's going to only get better as they get washed. The more and more I wash these, the more the cotton's going to get a little more denser. So, anyways. Hi, Bruno. You back? I think he saw I was on my last one. Don't do that. Okay, and the last one. Come on up, Bruno. You can come up. All right. Michael Snell wants to know, what is the benefit of using a serger over a regular fold over stitching? Okay, Bruno, I like you. I think you're great. Here, come here. Come and sit face this way. Look it, that's you right there. You see you? No. Okay. So folding over and stitching, I think, looks really professional and neat. Excuse me, young man. I'm trying to speak here. I'm trying to tell them about sergers and sewing machines. You don't care? No? Dear sir, please. Okay. I will be done soon enough, okay? Anyways, I am so distracted. Try doing crafting with a Bruno. It should be an Olympic sport, I swear. All right. So, rolled hem, I think, looks very professional, neat, and nice. Like, if I was to do napkins, like fancy napkins for a dinner party, I would choose a rolled hem over a serged hem. Now, a rolled hem on a serger is where they do the really tight serged edge, so it looks like a little roll at the edge of your hem. I was going to say napkin, hem, whatever. And that would look really nice. Also, the sewing machine where you have the edges folded over and folded over, that looks really professional and nice. The sewing machine version is a little bulkier than the serger version, but they both are really clean, professional look. I would not use this serged edge where I'm doing a wide, I think it's a 1/4 inch serged edge. I have to actually measure it or pay attention to my settings. It's not as professional looking, but it looks great inside of garments. Now, the benefit of using a serger, like I said, you're finishing the seam edges. You are cutting the edges at the same time so they're even and clean, and you are sewing. So you're doing 3 things all in one step on one machine, which is really beneficial and useful. And the kicker of why sergers are so great is because they work amazing with stretch fabrics and knits. Because the way the serge seams are constructed, they have a natural flexibility about them. So you can get your athletic wear is going to come together really easily with a serger. That's why when you look inside of your knits and those type of fabrics, they're most likely sewn together with the serger. Not that you can't do wovens. This is a woven, and it is just as beneficial, but it makes sewing with knits super easy. So that is why there's a benefit of it. You can get away with having a sewing machine and not a serger, But you can't really get away with having a serger and not a sewing machine, because a serger doesn't have the ability to do all of the things that a sewing machine does. You have way more flexibility in construction because this always has this edge that it's going to put onto your fabric. So yeah, it doesn't, if you were to only have one, you could get away with just having a sewing machine and nobody would notice, and you would be able to make almost anything. Sergers, as amazing as they are, they're great for swimwear, knits, athletic wear, even bulky fabrics, quilting. Like, they are great machines, but they're not versatile enough to be able to make almost anything out of them. But they are great machines. They're also a little tricky because you have to thread them right. You have to thread them in the right order. You have to make sure all your tensions are on, and that can be, it could be a lot. And where I do have the patience to sit down and figure it out, I don't always when I'm live, because that's not as fun to watch, where I'm like, let me. So that's why I typically don't use my serger when I'm live, because if something goes awry, I need to be able to calmly, coolly, and collected just be able to pull it apart and put it back together, and that can take forever, and it's not as fun to watch. But they are great machines, and I do appreciate them. So there are benefits for sergers, and they are amazing, and they are worth it. But if you're a serger or a sewing machine, get a sewing machine. A rolled edge. Didn't know the term. Thank you. So rolled edge is mostly better for clothing. Not necessarily. We used sergers a lot with the wedding dresses. We did the rolled hem around the tulle. Not necessarily the tulle, but the laces. It was a really good edge. But it all depends on the fabric you're using. Each fabric has its own special needs, and it's going to, including how you're going to finish the edges, whether you want to serge the edge and then stitch it with a sewing machine, or if you just want to finish it with the serger, or if it's just, the sewing machine is going to be easiest, or sometimes, hand stitching it is the option. There's no right or wrong answers to go about any problems. It's just a bunch of tools, and the right tool for the job makes it significantly easier. So, yes. Picking up all the threads, but I now have 4 more of these paper towels. Hold on 1 second. I have another fabric I want to use. Hi, Bruno. He wasn't there a second ago, and then he jumped up as I was sitting down. But I also have this fabric. Where's my edge? Here's my edge. And I wanted a set out of this one too. I am stash bashing today. What's wrong, Bruno? Here we go. So, length plus about a wiggle room of 1 inch or so, because it will shrink. And like I said, I trim ever so slightly off some of the edges when I'm stitching. All right, now before I cut it, I'm going to serge the long edges and then cut it apart. Okay. So I did this long edge. Now I'm going to do the other long edge, and then I'll cut it up into the pieces. There's no right way. There's no wrong way. It's just the ways you can go about it. It depends on how many you're going to make, because if you're doing this in bulk, I feel like that changes my approach to most of my problems. There's the way you make it when you do an individual thing one by one, but when you start to bulk it, do it in bulk or mass production, it changes. Where's my big scissors? They're there. Like they fell on the ground a little while ago. And I'm going to see this fuzzy edge. This is my salvage edge. I'm going to kind of cut off more of this than I did on the last one because I don't really want to see this white fuzzy edge. And I can do that all in one step on the serger. And it's gone. Ta-da! Supposed to be this way. Nope. Okay. Oh no, they're all connected. I just have to trim the edges. Michael Snell, how do you know what type of fabric to use for what projects? I don't know if the fabric picks the project or if the project picks the fabric. It all kind of depends. Each fabric has its own special needs. Some are tougher fabrics, some are more delicate fabrics. Some have stretch to them, some are inflexible. It all kind of depends. So this fabric right here is very stretchy. If you're going to sew a straight stitch in this, it's going to pop the seams. You need to make sure that you have a stretchy stitch holding it together. So whether you use a serger, a stretch stitch, a zigzag, an abstract stitch, depending on whatever stitch you choose, you have to make sure that it's flexible. This fabric right here is not very stretchy unless you're on the bias. So most of the time with this type of fabric, I am taking advantage of the lack of stretch and I'm just using a straight stitch. Now, if I decided I wanted to cut this out on the bias and put some natural stretch into my garment, I might change up my mind, and it's the same exact fabric. So you have to think about the stretch of the fabric and the resiliency. So is it going to bounce back? You have to think about how often you're going to be washing this fabric. Like, what's the wear and tear going to be? Is this something that's very delicate, that's going to be handled with care? You might choose one way. But if this is something that is going to be used and abused, you might make different choices on fabric, seam finishes, and edges. Like Levi's denim jeans, they added those little rivets at the top of pockets to help with the wear and tear of the using your pocket over repeated use of pulling on your pants, of the pockets getting worn and torn. So they used more durable fabrics, double stitching, like taking into account the needs and then figuring out how you can either reinforce, use the correct fabric types, stitch. There's all these weird issues that when you are creating and sewing, it's not necessarily like a straightforward puzzle where all the answers are easy. Oh, you just do step A, B, C. You just follow the instructions. Sometimes it's like, well, the instructions say to do it this way, but my fabric's way stretchier than the fabric that they're using, so I have to make adjustments in my head, or you know what I mean? So the answer is it depends. And as not fun of an answer as that is, it really, your fabrics will kind of determine a lot for you. That pink dress back there, that dress pattern, I did it in leather. I did it in this stretch velvet. I did it in a cotton knit. I did it in a chiffon. And where it's the same pattern, I had to do it completely different. Every single one of those has different seam finishes. It has different stitches that I chose to use. Granted, the woven fabrics and the leather, I used a straight stitch, but on the stretch knits, I had to use a stretch stitch. So, and then also, like, just because it's a stretch knit doesn't mean it behaves the same way as every other stretch knit. I highly recommend getting I call these like a grown-up touch and feel Pat the Bunny books. Fabric swatch books, so you can have the terminology to order the fabrics that you need. These are all cottons. This is a cotton gauze, a cotton duck, a cotton canvas, a brushed cotton. So you know what you're ordering and how they feel and how they behave. Because this is cotton. This is technically a brushed cotton. It's a flannel, but you don't know the fabric until you actually have to work with it. Is it going to stretch? Yes, no, maybe so. Knot top. That's fun. I'd be neat to feature feature to leave them connected so you have a chance to use scissors to separate them when needed. It'd be a whole experience. Oh, I love it. So you have to cut them apart. It'd be annoying when my scissors aren't where they belong, because although I like to have a whole drawer of scissors in my kitchen, there's never scissors in the scissor drawer. And I have lots and lots of scissors. They just never end up back where they belong, because scissors are such a useful tool. It's hard to keep them. And I probably would be frustrated. But yeah. Where is it? There it is. I see you. Got it. Okay. Well, that has been a fun little side quest. I have 2 sets of reusable paper towels that I can blow my nose with. Used to remove my makeup. Whatever I need, paper towels to do that doesn't necessarily need to be thrown away. But I still have the paper towels for the necessary evil that they are. But I hope you guys enjoyed this little fun side quest, off the cuff project that is low stress. Yes. You should start tying a string to your scissors so they can never go far from their home. I have so many scissors because I don't like dealing without being able to find my scissors. And I did do that. Like, I had a pair of scissors that I had tied in my kit, and it helped that they were a really crappy pair of scissors because then they wouldn't disappear. But I feel like that's just a problem I'm going to have my whole life. I have so many scissors, and they are never where I need them. But I can always seem to find a pair when I really need. But anyways, I appreciated all the input. It's been lovely. For those of you in the United States, enjoy your 4th of July week/weekend. Because I think it's like coming up in a couple days. Yeah, today's the 2nd. So I hope you guys enjoy that. And I will see you guys hopefully next week. And I'll see you guys later. Bye.